Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for joining. We are going to get started. Welcome to the session for all about BatchMaster Manufacturing for Dynamics GP. Our presenters today are Diane Bishop, GP Practice Leader, and John Garcia, Director of Marketing at BatchMaster. It's great to have them with us. As we do get started, I want to remind you of a couple of housekeeping items. First, you're welcome to ask questions at any point throughout the event today. I know that Diane and John will be making time at the end for as many questions as they have time for. And we are also recording today's event. So without any further delay, one other note, if you ever want to zoom in on the presentation today during any part of it, whether it's slides or whether it's a demonstration part, look to the upper left of the presentation main presentation area. You'll see a plus and minus magnifying glass. You'll also see a couple of sort of diagonal arrows, and those will help you either go full screen or just to zoom in. So without any further delay, I'm going to hand things off to John Garcia to get us started.
All right, thanks so much. My name is John Garcia. I'm the Director of Marketing here at BatchMaster Software, and I'm very happy to have Diane, our GP Practice Leader, joining me. Diane's going to be demoing a number of the key features found in our process manufacturing solution for Microsoft Dynamics GP. Now, before we begin, for those that don't know who BatchMaster Software is, we're focused on developing and implementing process manufacturing software solutions. And we focus on food and bev, Nutra, chem, and life sciences. We've been around a while, and our solution is embedded within the Microsoft Dynamics GP framework. Some of the essential process manufacturing modules that you can see: R&D laboratory, formulation, batch production, quality, inventory, costing, compliance, and traceability. And we have some advanced modules, some MPS, MRP, and mobile warehousing. Since about 2011, we've had a partner relationship with Microsoft and been developing, enhancing this particular solution. So today we're going to do our best to touch upon some of the key features found in this solution. So I trust most of us recognize that process manufacturing is a little different than discrete manufacturing, and that you really do need some software to support these different products and processes as well. Now, the nature of food, chemical, nutraceutical, and pharmaceutical products really require some unique master file field definitions, some unique data collection processes, and certainly from product characteristics that need to be managed. You have to deal with whether things are perishable, the variability of the product, there's certain industry certifications, and some safety and hazardous information that are required by various industry regulatory bodies. In addition to the product itself, there's a number of factors that impact the quality and the production, the yields of intermediates and finished goods, as well as co-products and byproducts that are produced in each step of the production job. So in this presentation, we're going to try to follow the manufacturing and the inventory cycles in some logical order, and we're going to start by looking at product development. And I just wanted to show some of the typical food examples that we support. And the key thing here, intermediate that feeds another recipe that is then put into a container and then put into a packaging bomb. The interesting thing is we have separate recipes and packaging configuration specifications that you can manage. Another example, chemical products where a base formula feeds a particular colored paint, and that could be put into multiple configurations as well. And then in Nutra and Pharma, we deal with soft gels, capsules, liquids, tablets, and again, you could have an intermediate that feeds a particular formula that's put together into multiple packaging configurations. And the one key thing that connects all these different types of products is that in the BatchMaster Manufacturing solution, the formula and the packaging specs are managed independently. So basically, you could have a team of product developers developing multiple levels of formulas, while your packaging designers can develop multiple levels of bills of material. And then you marry the formula spec to the packaging spec to create the finished good spec. And since they're separate entities, a change to a common formula can easily update all of its related finished goods. And this structure really reduces the number of records that you have to manage in the system. Now, Diane's going to show us how the physical characteristics of the ingredients are used in calculating the overall nutritional and physical characteristics, or the label claim of the formula. Also talk about how raw material costs plus labor costs are used in estimating the finished goods up front during product development. And then she'll also touch upon some of the QC and SOPs that could be embedded within the formula itself. So in this example, what I wanted to show, it's a little complicated on the Nutra side because we have a situation here where we have an industry product type template, and that product type template has certain characteristics, and those are used to calculate in the system itself the intermediate, if you will, the soft gel ingredients weights, and that could be used by a contract manufacturer. But this holds true for a food and chemical formula as well, where there's different product types and templates. And the other thing that's important to note is that similarly, there's some pre-built, predefined industry-specific QC templates that are in there as well. So there's certain QC tests that are related to soft gels based on the characteristics, and those can be defined and added to the formula as well. So after rolling up a formula's ingredient property values, the system can alert you to the formula when it exceeds a certain target property values. And then you could take advantage of the system's dynamic formulation capabilities to perform what-if scenarios based on certain weights and volumes to ensure that the label claims are met. And you can compare current previous versions of formula or compare with other formula specifications. And you could always roll back to the last active approved formula. And this is where multiple product developers can work simultaneously on a baseline formula, and they could submit their version for management approval. So we use some established workflow and alert messaging capabilities in the system to kind of expedite the overall approval request process, and it's across one or more managers. And as I noted, you have embedded QC tests. So those embedded QC tests can be checked by your quality managers when they receive the specification. There's estimated formula costs based on the raw material costs and the labor costs, and those can be checked by your finance managers. And at the bottom line is when it's approved, it's ready, it's active on a certain date, and it's ready for production. In this case, I just wanted to show a quick example of a screenshot of a chemical formula. It's a paint, and on the right-hand side in this panel, you'll see that we have 20 or more physical characteristics of paint that's embedded within our system. There's this highlighted blue. I highlighted it with red around it. That's the VOC, and the system does these calculations, and it will alert the person when these, in this case, the VOC is out of tolerance. And Diane will be demoing the correction of an out of tolerance scenario with a food recipe. Now, just to make a note, if you're a food manufacturer, you can generate FDA-compliant nutritional fact panels. So we're using Genesis USDA information and your recipe management basically to generate the labels, ingredient statements, along with kosher and USDA, non-GMO, all those types of labels as well can be generated. And we can generate a supplemental fact panel if you happen to be a nutraceutical manufacturer. If you happen to be a chemical manufacturer, we integrate to leading third-party online services, and we could generate your SDS documents and labels that are in compliance with GHS regulations as well. So that's my brief overview of the product development. Let me go ahead and pass it off to Diane, who's going to drill down into the application supporting transactions for product development. Over to you, Diane.
Thank you. I'm showing my screen. Now, what I want to show you today is some of the features that John has just described. I'm going to start with our formulas in, this is process manufacturing. And if you notice here, here is all the modules of GP, and process manufacturing is just simply another module. So this is what he means by embedded. It uses the same tables as GP for inventory distribution. So it's a one-time login for both systems. So if we replace the GP manufacturing with our process manufacturing module. Okay, I'm going to show you a formula and how it works. Now this is my formula entry. And one thing that he touched on that I really do want to show you is that we can go to our quality control, our QC test for this blackened seasoning mix. And if you look here, I've got one. You can do pass and fail, or you can do a numeric value with a range, top and bottom, plus the target. Let me open this up just a bit if I can. If you notice here, I can change this to numeric, and it will ask me for values. Also, too, he was speaking of the predetermined test. We have all kinds of tests that come with the system, so, and you can create your own. But you do have some to start off with in the various, like this is our food demo database, so we're looking at mostly food. However, we do have a few items here, tests for chemical and Nutra included. Okay, and basically, in order to close my batch, I would have to go through and do my QC. And each one has its own. Each product has its own. This is a simple formula, an individual formula, but we also have our super batch. Now let me go to the next. I want to show you what I mean by super batch. Now this is our bomb explosion. I'm going to expand it all. And what this means is I've got some raw materials that's going to make my base seasoning. And with that base seasoning, I'm going to include some packaging items for my blackened seasoning, as well as some raw materials. And at this point, I am going to package it either in a 10-ounce bottle, or I'm going to package it in a case of 12 10-ounce bottles. And here's the packaging for the end result. So basically, we've got a mix batch, we've got a fill batch, and then we have an assembly batch. And in saying that, you can have all three of those versions tied up in one super batch. Now, John was telling you about physical properties, and you saw in his screenshot the physical property analysis. Now, this is one for food. I've got a seasoning here, Rocky Mountain seasoning, and if you notice, I've got a bunch, probably over 100 tests or property attributes that go to my items here, and it includes all of the items. So I'm going to check them all, And if you notice sodium, sodium is a very common property in most recipes. So what I'm going to do is out of scope right now. My scope for this is anywhere from 0 to 100,000. And as you see, mine is 881,000. So obviously I'm way out of tolerance for salt. So what I'll do is I'm going to change this. Actually, all I'm really going to do is just take one out. And I'm going to, oh, I forgot. I've got to uncheck this one because it does not have salt. And here, I'm going to take this out. And if you notice now, it will modify all of the values here, the batch quantities, in order to take and put sodium into spec. And it's no longer highlighted in blue. And that's how you do, how you make sure that you've maintained all of your attributes within their tolerance. Again, here's another one. You know, you have to basically do them one at a time. But that's the gist of it. And if you notice here, I've got, my batch is actually in experimental mode. So it will touch back on that in just a few minutes. Now, I want to go to my product cost analysis. As he was saying, you've got the chemists that are going to be looking at, and R&D that's going to be looking at the physical property analysis. But you've got accountants that will look at your cost and want to do a cost analysis. And what I've done here is, if you notice, you've got the same tabs that you have for the formula as well as for the physical property analysis screen. And this will show you the items in the batch or the formula. It will show you any byproducts, a formula master. In here, you tell it exactly what process cell, and by a process cell, I'm talking about a mixer or an oven, that type of thing. So, and you can create lines with multiple with multiple equipment within the lines. It tells you when you last made it. Now, if I go over here and I look, I can fill out any kind of safety hazard that I might. Now, with food, you don't necessarily have an SDS, so that's kind of not really applicable here. But I can tell it, okay, I don't really have a health factor that's chronic. I don't have any flammable. I don't have any reactivity. But I do want my workers to wear safety glasses and gloves because we are dealing with powders and spices. And that could cause a problem with eyes and this kind of thing. Okay, and then once we go to our cost analysis, what I've done here is I have actually put in two. What I did was I did the 10-ounce bottle. What does it cost me to make and package the 10-ounce bottle of blackened seasoning? And then what does it cost me to make my 12-pack or my case of 12 10-ounce bottles of blackened? And if you notice, it's getting all of your, all of the cost and all of the products, all of the raw materials that are combined. You've even got a loss factor. You've got your labor and your overhead. For the 10-ounce bottle, it cost me $7 to make. And the formula per unit is $9. I've marked it up 25% to give me a reasonable selling price. This is variable. This is a user-defined, whatever your markup is. And basically, this is just showing you, if I put it in 24-pack, would it be feasible? Would I make enough money off of it? Is it worth making that product and selling it? These are your what-ifs. What if I wanted to make another one? I could set up a lab item or a lab batch, a sample batch, and I could test it here before I ever made it. So, and like I said, our cost here, this is where you would say, I want a markup factor of whatever amount you want. And if I've got a yield factor, if I'm going to yield more or less, this is my tolerance. I've got a loss because some things always manage to get stuck in the mixer. And then I've got a loss factor. The constant is a 20th of a pound, or 2% of the pound, and the loss factor is 0.0909. So you set those up here so that you can actually, like I said, go in and calculate as reasonable a cost as you can get so that you can determine, is this a viable product to make? And now I'm going to go and we're going to look at the formulas. As I was telling you, my formula is actually in experimental mode. And I sent it to for approval. And now we can manage multi-level approvals. In other words, I can set up multi-levels for people, let's say for food. Select the record, and I think it's seasoning. There. In other words, I've got 2 people that have to approve this before it can go back into production and become the active record. And if I go to salad, I've got 3 levels. And when you set up these approvers, if I want to maintain an approver, I can set up this. In other words, this approver has to have a manager approve after they've approved it. So it's 2 sets of eyes that's looked at it. You can have as many as you want. You can have production, then you can have QC look at it and approve it. So it just goes on. And then the chemists get it the last pick. If they think it's good, then they're going to approve it. And that every time that you change an item, a quantity, anything like that in your formula, it creates a new revision which requires it to be sent to approval if you have that set up. And like I said, I'm an approver, so here is my naked chicken, and I can actually approve this at any given time. So if I wanted to approve it, it's under approval for Diane Bishop. She would have to do it first. I'm logged in as SA, so I would be the manager on this. And we were talking about nutritional labeling. We do nutritional labels, and they're modifiable to your needs. It's not necessarily our format we're worried about, it's your format. So we can customize any of these as well as any of the other reports or regulatory forms that you might need. So, but I just wanted to show one that was somewhat similar to what you might see. And now I believe I'm going to send it back to John for the next section.
Okay, to create a batch production job, you could use your desktop, and we actually have a mobile device that you could use to manage batch jobs as well. And simply selecting a finished goods specification, you could create a batch ticket. And you basically start off with a baseline specification that can be modified. And if it is modified, we're going to capture any of the deviations for audit purposes. But the system's going to automatically allocate inventory for the batch job based upon the inventory's characteristics, and that could be the potency, expiration, and other variable characteristics. And a matter of fact, these variabilities may alter the batch job specifications, so the system's going to have to deal with that. The consumption of the pooled lot-controlled inventory and any consumables at the product line can be recorded by the user, and that could be done on the desktop using a printout report that's produced when a batch job's released, or you could do that on a mobile device as well. And for selected items, pooled inventory can be automatically backflushed and recorded by the system, so that speeds up the whole entire process as well. And upon closing a batch job, the actual batch job yields are entered and validated along with close times. So management will have accurate production metrics. As you can see, you can use mobile device not only to pull ingredients and packaging, but it could store any balances back into raw material and packaging inventory, as well as the finished goods and intermediate. Now, there's a concept of super batch. You might have heard Diane allude to that. And it's going to take the complexities out of creating, linking, scheduling the right number of dependent batch jobs. So it gives you some better visibility and control over the jobs and the dependencies. So, for example, the system consolidates the demand for certain finished goods and automatically back-schedule the production of an intermediate that feeds different formulas. Or you could back-schedule a common formula that's used to fill multiple packaging configurations. Now, above and beyond the basic supply and demand reports that we offer, we do have MPS, MRP, and APS modules. So MPS allows you to make some better informed decisions about what production orders should be generated, how much you need to make, when to make them. The APS manages batch jobs at a more granular level, and that's at specific dates and times. It gives you better control over the production lines that the batch jobs run on. Add in some changeover and maintenance tasks as well. And then MRP is going to allow you to generate purchase orders that align and are back scheduled to meet the MPS generated production schedule. And Diane will touch upon that. Another area that's very, very important for production is quality management, and that's going to ensure a continuous flow of high quality products through the plant. So you can go and start at the delivery, vendor delivery. Trailer pulls up. You can check the cleanliness, temperature, let's say, of a refrigerated trailer. Check the documents and the packaging are in order. When you're unloading the goods, you can perform quality tests against the vendor's sample based upon, again, an inspection plan. Once items are stored, they may lose their potency or may break down over time. You want to set up inspection plans, or as we call them, stability tests against the inventory. Not only can you check the on-hand inventory, you can establish checklists and inspections of certain storage areas. For example, you can periodically check the temperature or humidity of a refrigerated storage location. Along the production line, inspect and record the settings of your production equipment. It goes without saying you're going to be doing QC tests within the production line. And then after a batch job's complete, before a customer shipment, you can perform some additional quality tests against a sample of finished goods. So the net, all these quality-related instructions can be informative in nature, like an SOP. They may require just an acknowledgement, while others will mandate the data collection of QC information. So with that said, the QA has a number of tools to determine whether a batch job needs to be reworked to avoid scrapping an entire batch job. So we can rework. And when you rework and you're going to adjust the batch job, we're going to ensure that the label claims are still met and we're capturing all the deviations in that particular job for auditing purposes. Now, if QC tests fail, there may be the opportunity here to do some continuous improvement. And that's why we have some GMP transactions that we support: deviation, nonconformance, root cause analysis, and CAPA. And all this information, again, is going to be used, especially if you're in an FDA validated industry. You're going to need that information. And it goes without saying that all the collected quality-related data is going to be trended and analyzed to identify issues with either items or vendors or even storage locations. So with that said, let me pass it back over to Diane.
One thing that he was mentioning was the difference between a single batch entry and a super batch entry. And I have an example of both of them here, of the same item, so you can see. Now, I have actually a batch in as a batch entry. And as you see this, you only are making one piece of a formula. So if I wanted to, in order to make my blackened seasoning 12-pack of 10, I would have to do all 3 of my batches individually. I would have to, first I'd have to make the chicken seasoning, and I don't know who named it naked, but I apologize ahead of time. And then I would have to mix that and package the 10 ounces of blackened seasoning, and then I would have to perform another assembly batch to put it in the bottles in the cases, and all the labels and film, ribbons, whatever it takes to package that and ship it out. So this is one of your single batches. Now let me pull up now, I will pull up a super batch of the same item. Now, as you can see, I have all 3 batches here. They're all, and it starts out at the top. This is my final batch where I'm going to be packaging my 10 ounces, 12-pack of blackened seasoning. This batch is where I am creating the blackened seasoning, mixing it with the naked chicken seasoning. Let me expand that so you can kind of see. So as you can see, I have 1 batch, but I have 3 steps. In here, I can also go straight to my super batch close. And the first thing I have to do with all of it is to do my QC. If I go here and I say, okay, I've got QC here, I've got a test for the blackened seasoning 12-pack. And it's all passing. Well, I've got 2 pass and fails, and I've got 1 numeric value. And my target here is 12, because basically what I'm doing is a count to make sure that I am putting 12 10-ounce bottles in the case. And once that passes, if this did not pass, we would have to rework that batch through the last sequence, the last step. Now I'm going to go to my second step. This is where I'm going to take the naked chicken seasoning and mix it with my other ingredients to make the blackened seasoning. Now, if you notice, I have 2 tests here. And 1 test is for the formula, and 1 test is actually for the batch. So, for the item. This is for the item, and this is for the batch. So you can set up QC tests per item. So you can say, I want this to have this test before it ever goes into a package. And then you can have it here, and if you notice, I've got pass and fails. So these have passed the taste and the smell. And my last is my end product. Well, actually, it's my beginning product. It is my naked chicken. And I've got several steps here that I've got taste, smell, and count 1 more time, so that I can see all of these. And I think I missed a step. Hold on, I've got to go here. I apologize. Technical difficulty. And here I can go to my naked chicken, which is actually my base seasoning that's used in multiple formulas. So if you look here, I've got color for the top one, and I have color for the bottom one. So basically what I'm saying is my item is fine, my finished good, my item is fine, and my mixture is fine. Now, this is an intermediate item, so normally this does not have any packaging attached to it, simply because you don't normally, if you run a super batch, you're only making however much you need for this 1 batch. So you don't normally store this type of thing. However, if you did want to make it so that you always had some on hand for other batches, or even this batch, you could do that and just add some packaging like a carton, a pail, whatever you wanted to store it in. And here I've got several options that I can do. I can issue the material all at one time. And if I have any missing items, it's going to tell me that I do. It's going to tell me, oh, you don't have enough material for all of it. And you can close all of the batches, And right now, on this one, on number 3, I issued all of the material. When you allocate, I could have allocated first, and what that does is commit the inventory items, the raw materials, to this batch. However, if I issue it, but it's still in your inventory, as soon as I issue it, it pulls it out of inventory and puts it into WIP. So, and then at the point that I've issued it all and we've gone through the process, I can receive the material. And I'll bring this up just a little bit later where I show you physically how to do this. But when you receive, this is where you give it its lot number. That's going to be tracked in the system. And then you can close your batch or close all of your batches at one time as long as production QC has been done and as long as you have enough material. At this point, I could close my batch, and it would automatically, because this item is set up to automatically generate a lot number, so I don't have to deal with it. Now, I have a batch in the next session where I'll show you how you enter the lot, give it the lot number. And basically, one of the things, like I was saying, in my batch, if any piece of this failed, for instance, if I went here and I do the production QC, if this was to fail, this whole batch would be sent back to production for a rework. If at that point there, any of the attributes are out of tolerance, then again, it can be reworked. And I think that's got it for, oh, I did want to show you the inspection plans. You can set up inspection plans where you can do the plans while it's going through production. You can do inspection plan checklist to say, okay, did we cover all of these items here? Are they all? So the checklist can be brought up for any batch, and these come with the system, so to speak, out of the box. But you can create your own checklist as it goes through the inspection plan. So if you wanted to set up an inspection plan for anything in the system, and as John was saying, you can set them up for equipment, for areas, for sites, however you want to do it. For raw materials, you can set up inspection plans. So, and with each of the inspection plans, each of the products, you can print a certificate of analysis and any other of the reports that you might need as far as regulations or sending with the product. And John, you get it back.
All right. Hopefully that worked. So a little point on regulatory record auditing. I had made mention that if you're working in production and you change a baseline formula, a baseline specification, it's going to know that. And if you're going to be doing reworks and you're changing specifications, again, we have to capture that. So there's a lot of information that's being captured. If you're a Pharma, FDA requires you to have this type of information, and I just wanted to point out that our system provides these types of functions to be able to support, again, the regulatory record auditing. Now, the application tracks all the lot-controlled inventory within the plant from the time of delivery to the time of shipping. Diane mentioned a little bit about lot control inventory and the generation of the lot numbers. And it's important to note that it mandates the capture of this information, or it will assign a system-generated lot number at the time of receiving or at the time of WIP. And that's for intermediates, co-products, and byproducts as well. Now, you can employ mobile devices to capture the movement of the lot-controlled inventory within the plant. And by doing so, you could really significantly reduce a lot of lot number related errors, as well as you could expedite a lot of these inventory activities as well. Now, if you need to search for a suspect product, we have a graphical mapping inquiry that allows you to quickly perform what we call the bidirectional lot traceability searches. Now, you could use the tool so you could quickly perform a product search from a delivery through WIP to customer shipments, or a customer shipment back into WIP, back to delivery, and then look at what other shipments were made out of that production. Or you could just start within the batch job and look in either direction. And the key thing is that the traceability searches can be done in minutes and not days and hours. So it really does exceed today's regulatory mandates, especially if you're doing a food safety certification, whether it's BRC or SQF, for instance. There's timing for product traceability and recall codes that you certainly can exceed. And a lot of large retailers will establish some mock recall programs with you. So this will help you comply with that. And in addition to the traceability reporting, the system can generate a recall letter for a given product that can be forwarded to your suppliers and customers. And these templates can be customized to the type of recipient and have some hyperlink information in there as well. Now, in the unlikely event that a bad situation occurs and you encounter what we would say an adverse event that's associated to your product, you can capture this information. You can initiate an investigation using some established QA protocol. And this is, again, continuous improvement process as well. We have a complete set of QA transactions, as I mentioned in a previous screen. And part of the root cause analysis would be to actually employ the traceability map and the recall capabilities in our system. So, with that said, I'm going to hand it off to Diane one more time.
Thank you, John. I want to go back just a minute because one thing I forgot to show you guys was our APS production scheduling, like John was speaking about in the second section. What this does is allows you to scale out. This is a very generic example, but you can create a production schedule, and I've done it for a week. And at this point, I've got my batch, which I've got Section 1 and Section 2, and I can modify them. I can move them around. I can change my process cells, which again is mixer, oven, this type of thing. And I can add a task at any point. I can say I really want to clean before I do anything. And I'm sorry, I can't pick this up with my mouse. But basically, you just assign a task. You would put it in the timeline. And I just wanted to touch on that just a little bit. Plus, you've got the full information of your product or the batch that you're highlighting here. So it'll give you the batch information. And then once you've got this the way you want it for your week or your month, however you want to do it, you can upload it to GP and it creates a schedule, which then updates your MRP and MPS. So based on all of this information and the dates, it would tell your MRP and your MPS what to schedule in MPS and what to order in MRP if you were short anything. So I didn't want to skip over that. I apologize for not bringing it up in the last session, but I wanted to touch on it. Now here, we're talking about lot traceability. And I wanted to show you guys how the lot number gets processed. I have a purchase order here of salt. Oh, no, I'm sorry, lettuce. It's lettuce. I'm going to receive this really quickly, and I'm going to give it a lot number. Now, I have received this from the vendor. So now I can give it the vendor lot number, that came with it, or I can generate my own lot number by hitting auto generate. And when I do, it puts it in the format and the lot number masking that we have set up for our system. So basically I can say auto generate, and it gives that lot the lot number for this batch. Now, if I wanted to break it down in 2 batches, say split it, I could put here quantity selected 2, and it would do 2 different lot numbers for each of my batches, or my receipts, I'm sorry. So that's how it gets into the system. This is how we receive it in and give it a lot number for traceability. I'm going to delete these. And then next, I would go to a batch entry. And what I would do is I would create a batch using some of that raw material. And this is in there. Part of my lettuce mix here is going to have that lettuce that I just received. So as soon as I go to batch close, and you can go to batch ticket, but if it's just a batch that's going to last by the end of the day, you can go straight to batch close. If it's something that lasts 2 or 3 days, you want to work at the batch ticket level, just so you know. And here I've got this, so I'm going to go into my batch, I'm going to issue my material. And since I only have 2 items, it's going to be quick. So I've got the success on both my raw materials. Now then, it'll take a second, go back to my batch, and then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to receive the material. So actually what I'm doing is I am going to receive. I issued the material, production has gone through, I am going to receive my lettuce mix for anything in the system. Now what this is, if your price and your cost are out of sequence, or maybe has doesn't have quite, has too big of a variance, it will tell you. So you could say yes or no here. If it's within your tolerance range, you can say yes, which I'm going to, but it's not really necessarily in line. And I'm going to, now at this point what I would be doing is giving it, and this item is probably marked for auto generation. So it automatically gave it a lot number. Now if I was doing something that was a setup for a manual, and let me show you how that comes about. For my item, and if I go PC, and I do my lettuce mix, and I go up here to additional, I can do QC item test. This is where I would assign my item test to this item itself. I can do the item extension, and by doing this, I can say I want to auto-generate, or I can manually enter the lot number. So this is where you determine, for this item, am I going to just let the system take care of it, or am I going to enter the manually enter the lot number according to our specifications. Also, too, this is at this point is where you put the expiration dates for the item. This item, starting on the day that it is produced or the batch is closed, you will have an expiry date of in 120 days, and it will automatically calculate your expiry date. Okay, so that was all done here at the batch level. So now we've got a lot number from the vendor, or we've created one ourselves as we receive the product. Now we've created a lot number as we've made the product. So now the last place where we get this is on a sales transaction. If we go to the sales transaction and I pull up an invoice, this one, and I'm going to fulfill it to ship it out. And at this point, I can go in here and I can pull lot numbers for that item. And unfortunately for this item, I don't have enough because I've got only 53. If you see the triangles here, you've got warnings. It's going to tell you these have expired. It notifies you. Check it out. You're going to send out an expired item. So I could go ahead and ship this 53 that's okay and then wait on the other amounts to be produced, or I can hold the whole thing, the whole order until it's ready to be fulfilled. And then I send it out. As soon as this invoice is posted, it's considered shipped out of the system. And lot traceability we were talking about. I printed it. I can't delete it. So when we go back to process manufacturing, now I've showed you how you got the lot numbers, how they were maintained throughout the system. And now if I go into production and I look at your lot traceability configuration, okay, say I have a customer complaint. And we do have that capability, just so you know. We can create a customer complaint and have it tell us, I think it's here. Yeah. But not quite. Okay. But anyway, you can create, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but you can create a customer complaint. And like this was the expired product was sent to the customer. And it gives you the lot number and the manufacture date. So as we were looking at 120 days, it's definitely expired. And you have various things that you can do. You can, it'll pull in all the information. You can put notes in on what actions were taken to fix it. But at this point, it would be handed over to process manufacturing. And we would look and say, okay, we know that was sent out, but where else was it sent out? We don't want other customers calling. We'd rather be proactive and handle it ourselves. So I can go into our lot traceability. If I can find it here. I should have it open, but trace serial lots. Oh, maybe not. Yes, okay. So I want to trace where that was used, and I want to trace it at multi-levels. So I'm going to pull up my lettuce, and I believe it was RM1013. There it is, my romaine chopped. And I'm going to say location, and I want to pull up that lot number. And I want to process it. And as you see, I've got my PO receipt. This is where we received that in. And if I expand it, I can see everywhere it was produced, every batch ticket that was ran using that product on that receipt. And then to go even further, I can show you where it was received into inventory from the issue. From where we issued it in, and now we've got the finished good, the lettuce mix, that's going to go out. And now that mix was used in another product. So if I go back here and I say expand all, it might take a second. And while it's expanding, you will be able to see where it was received and where it was sent. And once you see this, you'll be able to do what we call a lot recall letter about this product to anyone where it was going. Let me go down here and say fit to screen. Okay, right here is our sales. Whoa. Right here is our sales. This is where, sorry, I can't get, I roll my little mouse and it expands or zooms or decreases. But anyway, these are our sales. This is everywhere that item, that raw material, went in, was issued into batches. Here's where it was received into inventory. That was used again, and now it was sold. So you can trace it forward and backwards so that you know. And like I said, you can do a lot recall letter that sends out to everyone that received that item, plus you can send it back to the vendor to let them know if it was a problem with the vendor item. However, it wasn't, we just sent out product. Now, and we were talking about nonconformance, and real quickly because we're running out of time, but nonconformance is simply a process where you can track what you've done to fix that expired product. Here, I set up a QC test to verify the expiry date. So now, along with my count, I will have an expiry QC test. The root cause, it was shipped on 6/7/17 and the expiration date was 12/14. Contacting the customers and sending replacement order. So as you can see, you can track it through the system back to your customer complaint. And now I'm going to give it back to John.
All right. Thanks, Diane.
No problem.
All right. So a lot to cover within the hour. Diane alluded to the fact that we do have mobile warehousing, and the mobile warehousing deals with inbound warehouse activities. That would be for receiving and put away. Mobile warehousing is being used in the manufacturing activities to pull product into the production line and put balances back, and then for outbound as well. You've got the shipping side of it, and the manufacturing also incorporates the quality controls as well. So overall, BatchMaster Manufacturing for GP, we're doing costing, planning, execution, and compliance, inventory management, lot traceability, mobile warehousing. And the key takeaway that I want everyone to understand is that our BatchMaster Manufacturing does replace the manufacturing modules in Microsoft Dynamics GP, and it's being used for process manufacturers, and it allows them to accelerate product development, quickly scale production, ensure quality and compliance, reduce costs, and make better informed decisions faster. For any resources, you could go to our website, batchmaster.com. We do have a web page underneath Solutions for BatchMaster Manufacturing for Microsoft Dynamics GP. And underneath the resources, depending on what industry you're in, each industry has its own resource center. And I always like to promote some of the recorded webinars that we have out there. And if you need some information, info@batchmaster.com. You could call us directly. That's my extension. You can reach me directly. So with that, I'll hand it back to Jason to finish it off.
All right, thank you, John. And I've just launched a very brief poll, which, John, you can actually close on your screen so people can see the contact information. But if you do want to get a follow-up, you can just indicate it in that poll, or that's optional. And with that, we are, well, we can take some questions. We have a minute or two here. Let's see. So I see one question so far, John, asking what manufacturing activities can be performed using mobile device.
Yep. I hope I tried to mention that, but if we have a minute, I don't know if everybody can just hold on. Do we have a minute or two? I know it's top of the hour. If we do,
fine for me, yeah.
For those that are attendees, Diane, if you would, Jason, maybe you could hand it back off to Diane.
Sure. And Diane, I'm going to take you off of mute here.
Okay, let me share my screen here. Okay, now this is small for a reason. When you have a handheld device, this is what you see. And you have almost the same modules. Well, actually, you do have the same modules that you had. So real quickly, under production, I can issue material here for any of my batches. If I pull up batches, it all ties back to the batches in process manufacturing within the system. I can do my finished goods, other words, I'm going to receive here. I can do electronic batch ticket. I can actually create a batch ticket right here out of all of these and send it electronically. You can do, under here, you can do electronic weighing. We do tie into weighing scales so that you can go through the process of weighing a batch if you need to weigh product before it goes in. You can do staging. You can do pending put away, or you can generate a put away after you've processed it. You can also do staging. Oh, sorry, went too fast. Staging, so you can put everything away as you go. You can do production QC here. You can run a batch inspection. Everything you can do from a handheld, either a scanner or a laptop, a tablet, iPhone, anything like that can be used to use this product. You can receive your items. You can ship out items, same process. You can transfer material here. You can do inquiries if you want to see what you've got on hand of a certain item. You can print labels, all from the handheld. And in, you can run any kind of inquiry. You can look up lots, bins, QC. And I think that's all I've got time for, but I'm glad I got to show you guys this, because this is one of the most treasured options when people finally get to the point that they want to automate their warehouse. This is perfect. Okay, so do I go back to Jason or John?
Your choice. We are actually about to wrap up here, so I don't see any more questions in the queue.
Okay.
So yeah, John, Diane, thank you both so much for taking the time to present today.
Yep. Thanks everybody
Thank
for
you,
attending, and thank you, Jason.
Yes.
All right. And my pleasure.
You guys, did we give out our email addresses, John, so that if they need to contact us?
Yeah, it was info@batchmaster.com. Easiest way to do it.
Thank
or
you.
just go to our website. Contact us. That's probably the easier.
All right, we're going to end it there. Thank you so much. We'll be following up with information on the recording. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.